Hello everyone, back again to today's second video. We're doing GWV Sunday Round-Up for today's second video. So it's going to be your sunny afternoon eclectic mix of this and that. We're going to be looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, solar activity, what's going on with ENSO, the QBO, SOI, AO, NAO, and the weather for next week, 10 days as well and beyond. So sit back, relax and enjoy, and I'll get on with GWV Sunday Round-Up for you very shortly. So the first video released today was the 4th Summer 2020 Analogues update. So that's looking at March CET data. That video is going to be placed on the Summer Updates page this evening. There'll be a written summary that goes with that one as well. Actually, that wasn't the first video. The actual first video was launching the competition. So we started a competition at GWV today, and the response has been phenomenal. Actually, I think this is the busiest opening sort of morning to a competition that we've had so far. So I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do to enter the competition at the end of the video. But yes, a very big response to the competition so far. Big thanks to everybody who has entered the competition so far. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to say a big thank you and go over to this page. I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest PayPal donor. So we've had a donation through PayPal from George Timmons. I'm going to say a big thank you to George Timmons. Thank you so much, George, for your donation to GWV. Thank you so much, my friend, for doing that. So, yes, big thank you to George Timmons, and a big thank you to all of our PayPal donors. If you'd like to become a donor for GWV, all you need to do is come to GWV's PayPal page. You sign into your PayPal account, then you can give whatever donation you would like to GWV. And by doing that, you're going to get a mention in videos. We'll give you a shout out and say thank you for doing that as long as you want one. Of course, alternatively, there is Patreon, so you can become a patron for GWV as well. You just come to the GWV's Patreon page, and you can sign up for a Patreon account, assuming you don't already have one, and then you can give an ongoing monthly donation. It can be anything from $1 a month to GWV. We've got 62 patrons so far, so hello and a big thank you to our 62 patrons. And whether you're a donor or whether you're a patron, we very much hope that you are enjoying the content that we're producing at the moment. So a big thank you to all of our patrons, a big thank you to all of our donors, and a special thank you to latest donor George Timmons. Thank you so much, George, for doing that. That's really, really great of you, and thank you so much, George, for your donation. Right, let's begin GWV Sunday Round-Up then. I'm going to start off with solar activity. So this is how the solar disk is looking on our side of this day from solarham.net. We have a spotless solar disk. I think a couple of days ago there were some sunspots, but right now spotless solar disk, and solar activity therefore is at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. We've got the solar activity tracker back this week. Our good friend James Ackrill has sent this through to us. James is continuing to recover from the operation he had a few weeks ago. The recovery is going well. Slow old process, as James knew it would be, but the recovery is proceeding, and James sent the solar activity tracker through to us today. So big thanks to James for doing that. So this is updated up to the 3rd of April. We can see that we are still at a very, very low level of solar activity. Of course, our trend lines are the thick green and thick red lines. And you can see how they're sort of on the floor of the chart. We did go through a little bit more activity back in the winter, actually, around January into early February. We had a very minor number of solar activity, but we did have a little bit of activity back through the beginning of the year, the end of last year, the beginning of this year. But over the past few weeks, we have been at a very, very low level. You see how these lines have just been flatlining away. The orange line depicting each individual day's worth of sunspots, and just flatlining away on the floor of the chart there. Very few days having any sunspots. Just last couple of days, we did get a couple of sunspots just there. popping up. Yes, a couple of days ago had a couple of sunspots, but I think we are now back to spotlessness once again. Rat solar minimum, and this confirms rat solar minimum. Look how minimal the orange spikes are, which are each individual day's worth of sunspots. I mean, other than this period just here, very few days are having sunspots at the moment, which is exactly what you expect to happen when you're at solar minimum. You will get long stretches without any sunspots, and so we remain within a very deep and very prolonged solar minimum. We've been in this solar minimum for some time now, and we're going to stay in it for some time as well. We will progress into the new solar cycle number 25, within the next few months. We won't know when that's going to happen until it has happened, but we will be progressing into solar cycle 25. I would have thought at some point this year, and probably I would have suspected around the middle part of the year, but we shall see. We shall see about that. But yes, solar minimum does continue for the time being. A big thank you to James for sending the GWV solar activity tracker through to us this week. Thanks so much for doing that, James. This is from my good friend Richard Trott. So this is showing spotless days and the current spotless stretch. So we can see that for 2020 we have had 70 days, that's 74% of the year so far, that have had no sunspots. So again, this is very deep solar minimum. 2019 had 281 days, which was 77% of the year. So very little change at the moment compared to where we left off at the end of 2019. 77% of 2019 had no sunspots. 74% of 2020 so far has had no sunspots. So deep solar minimum does continue. You can see what happened in the last solar minimum. So that was 2008. That was the solar minimum year for solar cycle number 23. Had 268 days, 73% of the year without any sunspots. 2009 was very similar though, with 260 days, 71% of 2009 had no sunspots, and that was the first year of solar cycle number 24. Remember, this was a very slow solar cycle to get going. Solar cycle number 24, it took a long time to start cranking upwards. It wasn't until we got into 2010 that things really started to move. Then we only have 51 days, 14% of the year without any sunspots. By the time you get through to 2011, of course, we're going into much more of an active period. Only 2 days then without sunspots, and no days in 2012, 2013. So you see how things do crank up, and of course things for solar cycle 25 will crank up eventually. But it looks like this transition from solar cycle 24 to 25 is progressing in a very similar manner to the progression from solar cycle 23 to solar cycle 24. So I think we're going to expect a slow old start to solar cycle 25. I don't think it's going to be a quick ramp up into this solar cycle. Big thank you to James and to Richard for sending through that data. Moving on to sea surface temperature anomalies. So this is how sea surface temperature anomalies were looking in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans when we did last week's GWV Sunday Round-Up. Got 3 areas of interest, of course. The ENSO region is just there. The Northern Pacific is over here, and then the North Atlantic is over there. That's how the oceans were looking, as I say, when we did last week's GWV Sunday Round-Up. This is the very latest. So dealing with the ENSO region, first of all, very little change there. We remain at ENSO neutral, on the warm side of ENSO neutral across the central and western parts of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. In the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, we're perhaps a little bit on the cooler side of ENSO neutral. But nevertheless, ENSO neutral conditions continue. Very little change in the equatorial Pacific Ocean from last week to this week. Going further north into the northern Pacific, we can see, but again, very little change really over last week. This area just here has perhaps become a little bit warmer, but we've still got the colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies around the coast of Alaska, Canada and North America. And then this deeper area of cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies stretched out into the middle part of the northern Pacific Ocean. That's a signature for a cold PDO, so the Pacific is in a rather colder state than it has been for a little while. In the North Atlantic, if we go back to last week and then go forwards to this week, again, very little change. The tropical Atlantic Ocean is still significantly warmer than average. You'll notice also in around the Gulf of Mexico, significantly warmer than average there. If this carries on into the summer months, then it will help to crank up the hurricane season. I've already seen a forecast suggesting this is going to be a very active hurricane season. I would assume a lot of that is being based on these warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies that we have through the tropical Atlantic. This area just here around Cape Verde, for example, that is where the initial areas of low pressure, initial thunderstorms really, are spawned that spark into tropical storms and eventually hurricanes. So it does look as though the tropical Atlantic is in quite a warm state. Going further north into the northern Atlantic, cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies continue up here. That's been omnipresent, of course, over the past few years, and we have this through winter as well. So it remains rather colder than average of sea surface temperature anomalies in the northern Atlantic and warmer than average in the tropical Atlantic. Overall, again, very little change on last week. The oceans are really quite stable at the moment. Summer Oscillation Index is an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state in the Southern Pacific Ocean. It's measuring air pressures between Darwin and Tahiti down there in the South Pacific. And this is measured by Queensland Government, which is, I think, part of Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. So when the SY is in its negative phase, the atmospheric state is reflective of El Nino, essentially. When the SY is in its positive phase, the atmospheric state will be reflective of La Nina. So negative phase is El Nino, positive phase is La Nina, a cold event. Now, the SOI 30-day average actually gone down over the past week or so. So towards the end of March, we was up here with the SOI 30-day average. Now we're down here. So we have obviously seen quite a burst of negativity of the SOI, and you can see this on the daily returns. These are all preliminary, but they don't tend to change all that much actually. So for example, we've got the 27th of March down to minus 18, the 28th of March down to minus 15, 29th of March down to minus 11. 1st of April went positive though with the SOI to plus 5, but then we dipped down negative again on the 2nd and the 3rd of April. We go down to minus 10 and minus 16 reflectively. 4th of April goes down to minus 11. So these days are all reflective of an El Nino type atmospheric state in the South Pacific. On the 5th of April, latest day we have, of course, ahead of us in Australia, we go to plus 0.72 basically at ENSO neutral. So we have gone through a period of quite negative SOI type conditions, and that tells us that the atmosphere over recent days, over the past couple of weeks, has been pretty reflective of an El Nino. If that was to continue on and on for the next few weeks and next 2 or 3 months, then we will probably start seeing an El Nino setting up as we get into the summer. But actually, the CFSV2 is still going for this idea of a La Nina as we go into the summer. So the CFS is not deviating from this. It has been really, really consistent. It could be consistently wrong, and we're seeing no sign of it really in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies or the SY subsurface-wise at depth in the Pacific Ocean. We may be seeing a few hints of colder than average subsurface temperature anomalies getting going. But anyway, the CFS definitely is still going for this idea of the La Nina developing through the summer. So the temperature anomalies along the side there, and the dates in monthly periods are along the bottom of the chart. So that's where we are right now, of course. Beginning of April, we're sort of just on the warm side of ENSO neutral to borderline El Nino type conditions. From here on in, if CFS is right, it's downhill all the way really with those sea surface temperature anomalies. And by the time we get through to July, only 3 months away, but by the time we get through to July, we are actually in a weak La Nina. And then that continues to progress as we go into the autumn, going somewhere on a borderline between weak to moderate La Nina by the time we get through to the autumn at the end of the year. So quite a rapid transition from where we are right now to where the CFS has us in 3 months' time. And it's quite a steep drop in the temperature anomaly. And we'll have to see what impacts that has on the weather. It is only going for a weak La Nina, though, so it's not going overboard with the idea, but we're going to get a very strong La Nina setting up through this summer. And the two things we have to look out for that can have impacts on the summer in terms of sending the summer off the rails, if you like, and turning us cool and wet. The two things we look for is a very quick transition, and that is quite a quick transition from where we are now to where it's forecasting us to be in July, but also a strong, well, a moderate sort of strong type La Nina as well. It's not really going for that. It's more, for the summer anyway, it's more on the weaker side of La Nina. It's going for a weak La Nina to be in place by the summer, perhaps progressing to moderate La Nina by the autumn, but that's a very long way out. So maybe it won't have too many impacts on the weather, but it is quite a quick transition, which is a bit worrying. But again, it's not a quick transition into a moderate to strong event, such as we had, say, in 2007 or 1988. So we'll keep an eye on it anyway and see where it goes. It could be that CFS has just been consistently wrong with this, because not by any means, not all of the models are going for this La Nina anyway. So we'll keep a close eye and see what happens. The QBO number is in 4 last month for March 2020. So, of course, we know we're transitioning into the easterly phase of the QBO. Remember, this one is just reflecting the atmospheric state in terms of the strength of the zonal westerlies, really. So when you're in an easterly QBO, zonal westerlies are weaker. When you're in a westerly QBO, zonal westerlies are strength. This is particularly important for winter, but it can have impacts on other times of the year. So the negative numbers, of course, are the easterly phase of the QBO. We see that in 1962, 1963, the daddy of cold winters, 1963, the coldest winter since 1740 was actually an easterly QBO winter with these very negative numbers, minus 17, minus 16, minus 19, minus 21. So we had a very strong easterly QBO phase taking place during the coldest winter since 1740. Conversely, a westerly QBO is the positive number. So, for example, we have got 1976 here, which first half of 1976 anyway was a westerly QBO period. It then transitioned into an easterly QBO, those negative numbers, in the second half of 1976. That was a mild winter, of course, 75, 76. We strengthened the zonal westerlies. It's not as straightforward as that, though, because there are many easterly QBO winters that are mild, and there are a few westerly QBO winters that are cold, actually. So not quite straightforward as saying an easterly QBO guarantees a cold winter and a westerly QBO guarantees a mild winter. Nothing with the UK's weather is ever straightforward due to our place in the world. Well, anyway, we're going into an easterly phase of the QBO, so if we come down to 2020, that's the year just here, of course, we can see that the first month of 2020, January, is at minus 2.51, second month, February, at minus 3.20, and third month, March, latest number, minus 4.36. So month by month, we're gradually starting to strengthen this easterly QBO. It is quite a slow old process to do it, but as we go further on through April, May, June, July, all of these numbers will probably go increasingly negative. So by the time we get through to the middle and second half of the year, we will see some very negative numbers indeed. And that is likely to continue at least into the first months of 2021. So the winter of 2020-2021 will be a strong, mature, easterly QBO winter. By the end of that winter of 2020-2021, we may be starting to transition into westerly QBO again, but that will probably be too late, or almost certainly be too late to have any impacts on the winter of 2020-2021. So next winter, coming winter, is going to be an easterly QBO winter, and we see that, yes, month by month, we are gradually strengthening and descending into this easterly QBO. This is from NASA. Again, this is depicting westerly and easterly phases of the QBO. The blue areas are where we've got the easterly QBO, the sandy, browny coloured areas where we've got westerly QBO. If you think this is like the top of the atmosphere at 10 HPA, that's right at the top of the stratosphere. That's down on the floor somewhere where we are. So the last easterly QBO descent took place in the middle of 2017. Just here, it's very shortly going to disappear off the chart actually, but you can still just about see how the last descent into the easterly QBO happened very, very quickly and smoothly and straightforwardly. Notice how those blue curves just descend through the layers of the atmosphere, reaching the all-important 30 to 50 HPA mark as we get through to the middle and second half of 2017, and these brown coloured areas, which westerly QBO of course, they're squashed down by this very smooth and quick descent of the easterly QBO. Come over to this side of the chart and you can see the difference, how this easterly QBO has struggled to get going. It's been stuck at the top of the atmosphere, really struggling to penetrate down. Notice how these raggedy sort of brown coloured areas just continuing around the 30 HPA level, not being smoothly pushed down into the lower levels of the atmosphere such as we had during the last easterly QBO. But we are seeing increasing signs that this easterly QBO is strengthening. Just here we see that the easterly QBO is strengthening. And we're definitely going to have an easterly QBO. We're not going to have a failure of an easterly QBO. It's gone too far to be able to stop this easterly QBO. The only question is when it will truly lock in. And I think it's going to lock in very, very shortly. I think these last raggedy, browny coloured areas that have been the westerly QBO clinging on for dear life, I think they're going to go very, very shortly. And I will think by the time we get through to the beginning of the summer, we will be well and truly into the easy phase of the QBO, which will then carry on through the remainder of the year. So easterly QBO is developing, it's strengthening, and it is on its way. Looking at Arctic sea ice extent next. This, of course, is from Arctic Sea Ice News and Analysis, which is part of the National Snow and Ice Data Centre. This blue line shows that we are losing ice quite quickly now. So that is 2020 just here. We've seen quite a significant melting of the Arctic sea ice over the past couple of weeks. If I put in our long-term averages, 2011 to 2019, we've gone under that long-term average now, actually, through the past few weeks and months. We've actually been above that average. This is 2020 just here. This is 2011, 2019 average just there. So through most of winter, we was doing better than the nearest average, 2011 to 2019, but now we've just gone under it, only very slightly, but quite a significant drop in Arctic sea ice extent has taken place over the past couple of weeks. The 2001 to 2010 average, which for quite a while through winter we was on a par with, we're quite a bit under that now. So again, that's where we are this year. This is the that's where we are right now, I should say. This is the 2001 to 2010 average just here, this darker coloured line. So we've gone quite significantly under that. And for 1991 to 2000 and 1979 to 1990 averages, we are way under that, as we have been all the way, a long way under those averages. So quite a significant melt has taken place over the past week or two of that ice that we managed to generate through the winter. So although we did have more ice through this winter due to that it was a very cold Arctic winter, and the cold has kept buckled up, very, very thin ice, only sort of on the surface, if you like, a lot of it not going down to any depth. So as soon as it starts warming up, then that ice is prone to melting. The melt season is underway, and of course it is going to bottom out eventually as we get through to the end of August and beginning of September just here, and we wait to see how big a melt season we're going to have again this year. So we'll keep a close eye on that, of course, over the next few weeks and months. This is how the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart is looking. So the black line shows where we've been, with the Arctic Oscillation. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. Remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, not driving anything in its own terms. This time it's just looking at what the weather is doing in the Arctic. So back through winter, the AO was in a very positive phase, record-breakingly positive at several points through last winter. But where we are right now, the AO is around neutral. So we have seen quite a drop drop in the positivity of the Arctic Oscillation over the past week or so. We're around neutral for the AO right now, but the GFS ensembles are forecasting that the Arctic Oscillation is going to go more positive again through the second half of April. So we certainly haven't done with this positive phase of the Arctic Oscillation yet. Eventually it'll run out of steam. Let's hope that doesn't happen in the summer, because if you set up northern blocking in the summer, then that could often be a bad sign, and because you get a trough of low pressure underneath it. So a lot of our worst summers tend to have strong northern blocking. As I say, at some point this positive phase of the AO is going to run out of steam. So we should wait and see when that happens. But if it happens in the summer, then that will be rather bad news potentially. Now the NAO is been in a more negative phase recently. So again, black line shows where we've been with the NAO. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. So back through winter, the NAO again was in its positive phase. But over the past sort of late March into early April, the NAO has gone into a negative phase. That's where we are right now. We are negative with the NAO for the beginning of April, and the GFS ensembles are generally keeping the NAO in negative territory to the middle of April. Possibly hints that it goes a bit positive in the second half of April. That's a very long way out. That's in the unreliable time frame of the GFS and its ensembles. But it's interesting that we've got the two indexes sort of fighting with one another at the moment. We've got the AO around neutral but going to go positive, and the NAO negative and looking to stay negative, certainly for the next week to 10 days. So yes, the atmosphere is in a bit of a fight with itself, I think, at the moment, and that probably explains at least partly the confusion we've had for Easter. If you've been keeping an eye on the updates over the past few days, you'll know that we've been very uncertain about this coming Easter in terms of the detail. I think a lot of the chopping and changing that's been going on in model output for Easter, and it's still going on today, we'll go on to that in a moment, a lot of that chopping and changing is probably down to the fact that the atmosphere is sort of fighting with itself in the North Atlantic with this negative phase of the NAO, but a neutral and seemingly increasingly positive phase of the AO, telling us that the atmosphere is kind of at odds with itself. Will resolve itself, of course, sooner or later, and things will become clearer for Easter very soon. I'm quite sure about that. Right, let's do some forecasting then. And this is the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensemble. Upper air temperature and precipitation ensemble for rugby. So red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for rugby. We're starting off above average at the moment. Very warm out there today. Temperatures are going to be into the low 20 Celsius, potentially across some eastern parts of the country. Of course, we've got to stay indoors though, and continue to self-isolate and take great care with this horrible virus doing the rounds. So the message from the company is very much to stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives, and you can go out into your garden, but you can't go beyond that unless you've got to go for essential sort of shopping, food shopping, or to do your one bit of exercise that you're allowed to do through the day. But otherwise, we're still in lockdown. Our message is very much to stay at home. Don't go out and about enjoying this sunshine and the warm temperatures that we've got at the moment. So as we go through the coming days, we're going to have more warm temperatures as well. Running up towards Easter, you see that the upper air temperatures lifting up again. Then into the middle part of April, the second half of that, we get quite a bit of scatter. So we've got these warmer ensemble members up here, but we've also got a few colder outlier ensemble members down there. Overall, it looks like the GFS ensembles are favouring a mild to warm outlook, but we can't totally discount those colder outliers that are there in the second half of April. Precipitation-wise, plenty of dry weather coming up to Easter. Maybe a little bit more unsettled after Easter, though. Maybe hinting at going a bit more unsettled as we go beyond the Easter period. There are a few more precipitation spikes there than we've had for a few days. So we could see things becoming more unsettled around the middle part of the month and into the second half of the month. And potentially, of course, if these cold outliers were to verify, it would also get a bit colder as well into the second half of the month. So the first half of April looks generally warm with a lot of dry weather. Second half of April, still a bit of a question mark about that, and still question marks about Easter. Temperature anomalies from the 5th to the 13th of April are going to be above average. It's a warmer than average week coming up. Precipitation anomalies from the 5th to 13th of April, drier than average. This is how the midnight GFS run was looking. So, of course, everything updating an hour later now means you haven't got the 6 o'clock GFS run for this video. And we haven't got the ECM ensembles from the Icelandic Met Office either, unfortunately. But we have got midnight GFS run, and this is Wednesday. High pressure dominating, can be mostly dry and warm on Wednesday. Back to high pressure continues into Thursday as well. This is Good Friday, still under a nice ridge of high pressure. But by Easter Saturday, just going a bit more unsettled across Scotland. Some showery bursts of rain. Probably a front coming down across the whole country with a few showers, and introducing cooler air, perhaps. That's Easter Sunday. So then high pressure in a week's time is just down to our southwest, ridging into the UK. So again, quite a bit of dry weather, but maybe showery in the north, and probably a bit on the cooler side as well. Easter Monday sees the high pressure strengthening, and by the time we get through to Tuesday, 14th of April, that high pressure is back over the top of the country again. So up to the middle part of April, it's mainly dry on this GFS run, with a few showery interruptions here and there. Going into more extended range into the second half of April, this is Friday 17th of April, high pressure then is drifting up towards Scandinavia, but still in control of weather. Low pressure is down to our southwest. This GFS run does have a lot of dry and fine weather. Eventually we pull in quite a chilly and fairly strong east to southeasterly wind, but that's a long way off. That's Tuesday, the 21st of April. But even then, it's suggesting the low pressure diverting down to our south, being pushed to our south. High pressure is in control. There is a lot of dry weather with this midnight GFS run. The GEM looks like that, so mainly dry and warm for Wednesday. And then as we go through to Thursday and Friday, high pressure again stays in control. Begins to weaken over the Easter weekend. This is Easter Sunday. There's a bit of a trough within the 500 millibar flow through the country then, so it might be a bit showery by Easter Sunday. But Easter Monday takes us back to this ridge of high pressure, albeit will be a little bit cooler. And then running up to day 10, high pressure remains quite dominant. So the GEM also has shifted away from that unsettled outlook that it had yesterday, or maybe it was a couple of days ago. It shifted away from that, and it has gone more towards a drier type outlook. The ECM looks like that, dry and warm for Wednesday. Mainly dry and warm for Thursday as well. Friday, Good Friday, just beginning to wobble the atmosphere a little bit, turning a bit more unsettled. And then that's Easter Saturday. Looks a little bit more unsettled with the ECM for Easter Saturday. There's a trough of low pressure across Scotland, but it's elongating down through the country. That could be rather showery for all areas for Easter Saturday. And then we bring another low in from the northwest on Easter Sunday through to Easter Monday. So, as I say, things still not completely sorted out for this Easter. It is a very, very confused picture, and if Easter was to develop like this, then it would be an unsettled and increasingly cool Easter. That is Easter Monday, with a trough of low pressure over the top of the country, bringing showers or indeed some longer spells of rain. And then as we go up towards day 10, we find that we start to move that low pressure away to our southwest, and the winds go into the east and to the southeast. It starts to become drier, and probably starts to drag up some warmer air from the south once again. So this is from TibetShow.com. This is a precipitation forecast based on that ECM run. Going to be loads of dry weather over the next few days. There is a band of rain coming across the country tonight. It will turn increasingly showery as it does so. And it will lower the temperature a little bit tomorrow, but it'll still be pleasant tomorrow once that rain gets out of the way from the southeast. And then beyond that, lots and lots of dry weather through the coming days until we get up towards the Easter period, and then it starts to turn more unsettled as we move to Easter. That is Easter Saturday, again looking rather showery across the country. Easter Sunday itself, 12th of April, does look quite unsettled, but remember the GM and the GFS do not go anywhere near as unsettled as the ECM today. But it does suggest that there would be showers or longer spells of rain for Easter Sunday and Easter Monday if things were to develop like the ECM is forecasting today. By day 10, we're back to mainly dry weather, and we're pulling up warmer air from the south or southeast. So Easter's still not sorted out, and well, it's going to have to resolve itself soon because it's getting ever closer. only a week until Easter Sunday. CFS V2 looks like this. These are 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period takes us from the 5th to the 11th of April. The coming week has high pressure sitting over and just to the east country, low pressure out to the northwest, jet stream doing something like that. There's plenty of dry and warm weather on offer in the coming week. Week 2 is the 12th to the 18th of April. Again, it has above average heights to our southeast, below average heights out to the west northwest. Still a lot of high pressure influences, maybe a little bit more unsettled, but overall still I would have thought quite dry and pretty warm. And then we go through to week 3, bit of a change then. This is the 19th, 25th of April. Looks like it's probably turning more unsettled. High pressure's collapsing down into the Mediterranean. We haven't got any particular area of low pressure close to the country, but overall it looks like that's probably reverting back to a more unsettled type pattern there. But not for long, because then we go through to week 4, which is the 26th of April to 2nd of May, and high pressure then develops just to our northwest. That will bring dry weather back, although it could be a bit on the cool side, with winds coming in from like a north to northeasterly direction. Overall, quite a bit of dry weather on offer with the CFS V2 for the next 4 weeks. Finally, this is how the CFS 700 millibar height anomaly is looking for May. Today it's going for above average heights close to the country, particularly to our south, but also there is a bit of a ridge to the north as well. Below average heights out to the northwest. Looks really quite anticyclonic, and you would have thought relatively dry for May. Temperature anomalies for May look like they're a little bit above average, a rather milder than average month. And precipitation anomalies for May, no particular signal, there very rarely is on these charts. But of course, with high pressure dominating, you would have thought a relatively dry month is quite likely. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, of course, the competition. So yes, we have launched competition in association with metcheck.co.uk and GWV. So this is what we're giving away this year. It's the Climate wireless rain gauge. It retails at £59.50. Somebody is going to win this in a week's time. On Easter Sunday, we're going to give this away, and someone will be winning it. It's a fantastic prize. Really, really delighted with this. And if you want to be in with a chance of winning this rain gauge, then all you need to do is go to GWV.com. competitions page at GWV.com. Have a read of that, see what you've got to do. Basically, it's just a prize draw. You don't have to answer any questions or anything like that. It's very simple, very straightforward. You fill out the contact form with your name and nearest town or city. So, for example, if I was entering it, then I would fill out contact form as Gavin Partridge, nearest town, Northampton. And that's what you have to do. You'll be entered into the prize draw. And as I say, a week today, on the 12th of April, Easter Sunday, somebody is going to win that rain gauge, and we're going to give it away. And we love to have a competition at GWV around this time of year. I was in two minds about whether to do it because of everything that's going on currently in the world. But for the people who are sticking with GWV and continue to watch the videos and continue to be involved, I wanted to give you something back. So I thought, yes, let's do a competition. And that's it. We're teaming up MetCheck. Big thank you to them. And somebody will be winning that prize in a week's time. Got to be in it to win it. So get emailing. Right, so that's it for the GWV Sunday Roundup. Don't forget to check out those summer analogues. That video we placed on the summer updates page tonight. Between 5 and 6 o'clock, there's going to be a live stream on YouTube. Everybody's going to get together and we'll see how we're all doing during this dreadful crisis. We will talk about weather a little bit as well, of course, but we're going to see how we're all doing between 5 and 6 o'clock on the YouTube channel. And I'll see you then. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.